If politics, presidents, and successful women spark your interest, then this episode of Dallas Social Cafe is for you. Hi, I'm D'Andra Simmons, and I invite you to join me as I meet a few interesting and powerful people. Don't go anywhere, as I'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Dallas is full of successful and powerful women. I am often humbled by meeting these extraordinary women who contribute so much to our society and to our community. Les Femme du Monde, Women of the World in English, recognizes these women each year with their Woman of the Year award. We meet this year's selection before she's announced at the beautiful home of Scott and Gina Ginsburg. Today we're at the lovely home of Gina and Scott Ginsburg, and we are talking about Les Femme du Monde and the Woman of the Year event. I am joined today by Elise Heinrich and Denise Stewart. You guys with your twin names are giving me a little bit of a hard time, but welcome, ladies. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Well, now, Elise, let's talk a little bit about what Les Femme du Monde is, the history of Les Femme du Monde.
Well, it was founded back in 1961 by a group of very prominent Dallas ladies, and they felt like that Dallas needed to become an international city. And so they decided to band together and start raising money for the World Affairs Council of Dallas-Fort Worth. And so we are in our 6th decade.
Oh my goodness, I was going to ask you how many years.
This is in the 6th decade, and last year, in honoring our 6 decades, we honored 6 women. For when we had called it Women of the Year.
I remember that. Yeah, I saw all the press.
And each lady representing one of the decades. So now this year we're back to just one Woman of the Year, like it's always been in the years past. It started back in 1986 when they started doing the Woman of the Year. In the very beginning, when they first started, they were selling clothes. People would donate their designer clothes after they'd worn them for a while. And they had a wonderful consignment shop going for years.
Well, I know this year we're talking about the gala as well. And so, Venice, you are the gala chair, correct?
Yes.
So tell me about what you have in store. And I think you can probably tell me who the Woman of the Year is. I know it's a secret, but this is going to air later, so we can discuss it, and I will keep my mouth zipped.
The gala this year will be on October the 14th. It's going to be at the Dallas Country Club. It's an evening event, black tie. We're expecting 300 and a sellout, so we're looking forward to it.
Right.
And we will have our distinguished Woman of the Year there who represents the Dallas community so wonderfully, and really, really proud that she accepted this role for us this year. And it couldn't have been a more outstanding woman and distinguished for us this year. So,
and can you tell me who that might be?
The Woman of the Year for 2015 is Virginia Cook.
Oh, wonderful.
And we're really thrilled with
Now, I know Virginia. I just love her. We've known each other several years, and my mother has known her as well. So talk to me about the criteria, how you choose somebody, because I know she's been a wonderful servant to our community of Dallas and a philanthropist and a businesswoman. There's so many great things we could say about Virginia. So how do you choose a recipient each year?
Well, I'll let Elise answer this, but it was my first choice. Personally, Elise asked me to chair this, and I said, "Do you have a Woman of the Year picked out?" And she said,
"We're working on it."
We're working on it.
And I said, "Well, I have a suggestion," and passed it through Elise, and she said, "That's a fabulous idea." As we all know, like you said, Virginia Cook has the most outstanding community credentials.
Yes.
And been very involved with real estate, beginning with the Millers years ago. I won't say how many years ago.
She's such a gracious lady, too. So
I am such an admirer of Virginia Cook, and so she's just, and I don't.
So, Elise, talk to me a little bit about this Woman of the Year and selection and things. Kind of elaborate on what
Well, we go on how much they have contributed to the community, and of course philanthropy comes into that, and lots of good deeds, and it's a combination of things. So we've honored.
I was going to say some of the past recipients.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Who are some of the past recipients?
Mary Kay, the First Lady, Laura Bush,
Yes, I remember that.
Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Doris Dixon was the very first one. She's deceased now. Abby Halliday. It's Tynesy Miller. It goes
So you have
on.
quite a list of women that have been.
The Minyard Sisters. It's really pretty amazing. You look at the list.
Quite an impressive list of women in the Dallas community that have given back and have served others and also have been very successful themselves.
Right,
So.
and that's the kind of the criteria.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today to discuss Les Femme du Monde and the Woman of the Year. And we are going to take a short break, and we'll be back with the Woman of the Year, Virginia Cook. And now we have our, should we do a drum roll?
Yeah.
Virginia Cook is our Woman of the Year. Yay, Virginia. So we're so excited to introduce you. I know tonight's the big reveal, so I'm a little bit ahead of the game, but this will air later, so we'll be okay.
That's good. I am very, very, very excited and very honored to be the Woman of the Year. When I was asked to be the Woman of the Year, I really thought there were other people that would be much more qualified. And I still feel that way, but I'm going to do my best to live up to the Woman of the Year of Les Femme du Monde in this year.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What does Les Femme du Monde represent for you? Because I know that you're a successful businesswoman, philanthropist, community servant, and volunteer. There's so many things that could describe you, so many accolades and words, and I know that you're perfect for this. So tell me about this honor, what it means to you, and what do you think this award is about?
Well, I think it means, the World Affairs Council has been a very, very integral part of our city. It has dealt with the international scene beautifully. And at the end of the day, the thing that matters most to me is upholding the strategy of the World Affairs Council. And if that means doing one more thing, I will do it.
Well, you're joining quite an elite group of women in Dallas community. You're joining Juanita Miller, as we talked about before, and a friend of yours, Tynesy Miller.
Juanita Miller was a classic. Everything she did, we did. If she ran Les Femme du Monde and there needed to be some work to be done, we did it. I remember one time she was involved in the opera, and she says to me, "Would you like to be the opera chairman?" "Don't even answer that," she said. "Go ahead and be it." And I was so young, I had no idea what it meant. But anyway, the next day I was having meetings and all kinds of things going on, and we were the opera ball chairman and worked in the symphony with Mr. Miller when he raised, I think $40 million was the last little bit that he had to gain. And so I worked on that and worked in the Salvation Army. Wherever the Miller family was, that's where I was as well. So I have a lot of respect for the Millers. I worked there almost 30 years, and it probably was the best 30 years of my life.
Well, Elise, I think you've made a good choice. So I think you're going to have a wonderful year ahead of you.
Thank you. Well, I'm convinced we've made the right choice, so we're looking forward to it.
I'm very excited about tonight, and congratulations, Virginia. There's no one that I could think of that deserves this honor more.
Thank you. Again, as I say, I'm extremely honored, very, very proud to serve as the Woman of the Year of Les Femme du Monde.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back on Dallas Social Cafe. How inspiring to meet the ladies of Les Femme du Monde and this year's recipient, Virginia Cook. We'll be right back. From Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and Calvin Coolidge to Kennedy, Carter, and Reagan, we visit one of the largest private presidential libraries in the country. Important artifacts and memorabilia fill the walls and bookcases of this beautiful home collection. Well, today I will be interviewing Cary Maguire, and we are in this lovely presidential library. Mr. Maguire, welcome to Dallas Social Cafe.
Thank you.
You are an American businessman and a philanthropist, and very important to the Dallas community and the worldwide community, I must say. So, and I've been able to get to know you for the last year or so, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you. And I'm very thrilled to be able to talk to you a little bit about your background and about all the things you've accomplished, because they're quite impressive.
Well, happy to.
Well, let's talk first a little bit about your educational background. I know that you went to school at Landon and then University of Pennsylvania. So tell me about where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, which was the birthplace for Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when they built Ardmore, Pennsylvania is on the main line there, railroad line. And when they built the railroads in Oklahoma, they named it the towns on the main line.
Oh, okay, that's great. Well, I know Villanova's on the main line. I've been there, and
Yes.
and that's the Brandywine area too, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it's a beautiful country up there.
Yes, it is.
So, okay, you went off to Landon, which is a really prestigious boys' school in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And then from there, you went on to University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay, and let's fast forward a little bit. So now you have Maguire Oil Company.
Yeah.
How did Maguire Oil Company come about?
Well, my father had a company that made the Tommy gun during the war, and after the war, he invested in oil, and actually they moved the office from Wichita, Kansas to New York on a railroad, but the railroad blew up. And so then he opened the office in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Okay.
And I went from Palm Beach, Florida, where he had a house, to Wichita, Texas, as a bachelor.
Okay.
And I'd been on the Stork Club television show in New York just before that
Oh, how fun.
with Barbara Kavanaugh, who later married the mayor of New York. And so as I entered into Wichita Falls, Ye-O Stork Club of Wichita Falls had just burned down the night before and was still smoking.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, then from Wichita Falls, then you moved to Dallas.
Yes.
And tell me kind of what the focus is of Maguire Oil Company. What focus of petroleum and the petroleum business do you
Well,
really?
we're in just the drilling and exploring and only. No refineries, no gas stations.
And I know some of your children work with you as well. I believe your daughter works with you.
Yes, she does. I have 3 kids, 2 of which have PhDs. My son has a PhD in physics from Princeton. And my oldest daughter has a PhD in clinical psychology. She has her own practice in San Antonio. And the third daughter has a master's in business from University of Texas, and she's with our company.
That's amazing to have children that accomplished as well.
Well, yeah.
I know that you have, knowing you and knowing about you, that you've had a great, significant impact on the Dallas community with regards to philanthropy and just the culture of what you believe in. So let's talk a little bit about how you decide, we'll talk about SMU in a minute and ethics, but how do you decide philanthropically what you're going to focus on, what issue areas?
Well, I've always focused on education because I think that's the most important thing next to health.
You and I have talked about education a lot and how you think that education is the most important thing in the world, and that an educated culture is the best culture in order to achieve long-term stability, whether it be for, I think, in my opinion, for a nation or for the world or for even a company ethically. So you are interested in the subject of ethics. You funded the Maguire Center for Ethics at SMU, the Maguire Center for Financial Ethics at American College, and Maguire Chair in Ethics and American History at the Library of Congress. Let's talk about ethics.
Okay. The whole principle of ethics is to consider the pros and cons of your major decisions. And as this seminar said yesterday I went to, we all come from a different background, but we need to hear the other guy's viewpoint. And you're not going to hear the other guy's viewpoint if you think there's only one viewpoint. And but it's also causing financial ruin.
Yes.
The subject. I mean, the banks. I mean, just yesterday, 5 major banks were fined criminally with a criminal charge for fixing interest rates. Well, that's the first time in ever that the banks accepted a criminal charge. They've accepted a lot of non-criminal charges. Well, that kind of speaks to our time.
So these are the kind of issues that you would discuss at the Center for Ethics. And let me ask you a question I was thinking when you were talking about that. How do you get people, you can debate 2 sides, but how do you get the other side to listen? And not just listen, but take into account maybe changing their ways or changing the direction. How do you achieve that goal?
It's not easy. But you have to sell them on the principle. I mean, we had a conference on ethics in sports, and we pointed out that you want to be aggressive, male, macho, and tackle, but not to the point where the guy has a concussion, who later can affect the brain.
Right.
And so that point was fairly easy to sell.
What do you consider to be the biggest problem facing the world today?
Jobs.
Jobs.
Yeah.
And explain, you mean the lack of jobs for individuals coming out of schools and...
Yes. The only jobs that people want now are educated jobs. And but everybody can't be have 5 degrees.
Right.
And so there's a lot of poverty in the world because nobody can get a job. So, and the government doesn't help any by putting all the restrictions on business. And an employee working for the government makes twice as much as a private job.
I didn't know that.
That's terrible.
So you taught me something new.
All right, well, good.
We've taught me a lot of things new. That's just one thing. I've enjoyed our conversation today, Mr. Maguire.
So have I.
Tell me, lastly, who is Cary Maguire, if you could just sum it up, and what legacy do you hope to leave?
Well, I would hope to leave a legacy of that he made a little difference in the subject of ethics, and where he got people to try to think about both sides, and particularly before starting wars. And you know, it's going to be a long process where people change that thinking. And I heard an interesting thought yesterday. Psychologically, people need to have somebody to look down on. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So there's always going to be different classes. And that's probably due to that.
Yeah,
I mean, the kings want to look down on the middle class and so on. And but one of my favorite stories was with the picture over there between George H.W. Bush and Margaret Thatcher when she was in the House. And she told that story on Bush, that during the hostilities she called him and said, "George, this is no time to get wobbly."
No time to get wobbly. I like that.
Yes.
I like your accent too.
Yes.
That's a fun story.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you on the work you've done in the area of ethics, and I know that that will continue on for many years, because I know SMU will continue that charge, and I thank you for starting that charge and for making us more aware, something that we need to be more aware of.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time today, Cary Maguire. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed the interview. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I truly treasure each opportunity to talk with Cary Maguire and walk away grateful for the experience. His interests, knowledge, and life experiences are invigorating. We'll be right back with more. Wow, what an inspiring episode from the men and women of Dallas. Thank you for watching, and I hope you share our show with others important to you. We would love for them to join us each week. Please join the conversation on our Facebook page and watch all of our episodes on our YouTube channel. Until then, be grateful and giving.